Good morning, everyone. It is truly an honor to be here this morning. And I really wanted to, one, thank AUSA and Guy Swan for inviting me, and also for always really representing the Army extremely well. We always endure your support. Also like to, again, give recognition to all the general officers, SCSs that are here in the room, also the retired general officers, sergeant majors. Thank you for being here. I know your schedule is extremely busy, but it's great to have you here this morning. Also like to recognize all the industry partners that are out in the audience, and thank you for making defense the best defense in our nation. Also like to recognize the congressional staff members. You know, as a former OCLL alumni, I just want to thank you for your unconditional support to the Army. I know last night was a tremendous night, and so we look forward to opportunities in the future. And so as you look at what I would like to talk to you about today, you have to look at the reflection of what we've just gone through in the last 13 years. 13 years in Iraq and Afghanistan, where we've received a lot of great lessons learned. And those lessons learned really impacted my focused area, which is, of course, the network, both on the institutional side and the tactical side. And as we move forward, taking those lessons learned is really going to have a tremendous impact on the way ahead in the IT business for the Army. As you look at General Ordiarno, and we look at our vision of 2025 and beyond, of deploying smaller teams, no notice, into an austere environment, it's really very important that we have a communication infrastructure that is from the installation to the point of need up and ready at all times. And so what I'd like to do this morning is really share with you my priorities as we move forward with the IT for the Army, as well as give you highlights as the status of where we stand in a couple of those areas, and then close it out with a overall vision, if you will, for 2025 and beyond. So if you go to the next slide, it talks about, these are my 5 priorities. And the first one really talks about providing signal capabilities to the force. And what I mean by that is, as you look at building lighter communication systems, bridging the gap between the tactical and the institutional networks, equipping the signal regiment for an integrated end-to-end network, also train the signal force to meet the C4 and cyber missions, also to align the signal force structure and support the Army's missions priorities. And as you know, looking at that line of ops, we have a huge opportunity that's ongoing now at Fort Bliss, Texas, with the NIE, where one of our major systems is undergoing a wonderful test of WinT. And I just recently went out to Fort Bliss, and I understand that that is going extremely well. So look forward to opportunities with the outcome of that experiment. As you look at the line of ops for number 2, enhancing cyber security capabilities, I first like to talk about the partnership. You've probably heard from General Cardone when he was up here a month or 2 ago about where the Army stands on our capabilities. Well, it was truly a wonderful partnership between the Army G1, G2, G3, G6, Army Cyber, and TRADOC to where we've achieved tremendous momentum and capabilities for the Army in cyber. As you know, standing up the cyber protection teams there at Fort Gordon, Georgia, the Army's earmarked 41 teams, 21 on active duty. I believe now we have about 14 teams up and operational with a glide path by second quarter to get all 21 teams up. We have 11 teams that are in the National Guard and the remaining in the reserves. As you look at, we just recently stood up a cyber mission unit a brigade level equivalent at Fort Gordon, the 7th CMU. We also stood up the JF Joint Forces Headquarters for Cyber at Fort Gordon. And as you know, we've changed from Signal Center of Excellence to the Cyber Center of Excellence there at Fort Gordon. We've also looked at, recently stood up a branch in a career field for cyber. And that career field number is 17. And so we're working to look at how do we assess folks to go into that career field as well as the branch. We're working the doctrine for the electronic warfare, and we're also looking at plans of moving our cyber to Fort Gordon. So again, as you look at all of those achievements in that area, the Army has really moved forward in embracing cyber, and the CIO G-6 is there as a tremendous partner to help keep that momentum moving forward. But as you look at the network in cyber, the key things that comes into mind is protecting the data and the network and securing the information, and also increasing the resiliency of the network through physical diversity of path. And we'll talk about that when I get into the next three lines of effort. But again, embracing cyber, I see as my second line of effort for the CIO G6. The next three really focuses on the institutional side of the network, of the opportunities that we are going to build upon as we move forward. The first one is increasing the network throughput through ensuring sufficient computing infrastructure. What do I mean by that? If you talk to any soldier that was deployed in Iraq or Afghanistan for any period of time, they were in an environment where there wasn't a constraint when it comes to bandwidth. Coming back to the post-camps and station, they found that to be a challenge. Imagine a highway across all post camps and station with the bandwidth of about 10 gigabytes. Yes, I want to speak a little bit of techie. And then at each post camps and station, only having the bandwidth of about 600 megabytes. Yes, 600 megabytes. If you look at Fort Hood, there are two main pipes there, and each pipes are only equivalent to 600 megabytes. And so imagine the soldier population there at that installation and trying to pass traffic. And when you look at doing live and virtual constructive training, you cannot do that. So with this initiative, what we're going to do across all post camps and stations is increase the highway from 10 gigabytes to about 100 gigabytes. And at each post camps and station, increase that bandwidth from 600 megabytes to about 10 gigabytes, thus setting the stage to stand up the cloud. And as you look at how many networks that we have currently managing, we have, of course, the Army network, and within the Army network, outside of that main network, you have the Corps of Engineers, you have the National Guard, and you have the Army Reserve. With this initiative of expanding the bandwidth, we're going to move the Corps of Engineers, the Guard, and Reserve onto that one network. And so the next phase, part of that line of effort, is securing the highway. And we have a new technology called the Joint Regional Security Stacks. And if you imagine the global network right now, we have over 700 touch points to that network, or 700 backdoors for opportunities to intrude into our network. And then what we're going to do is take out all 700 of those backdoors and replace them with the JRSS technology. In fact, from 700 down to 33. So again, hardening the network, and then again increasing our opportunities to secure the network much more with this new capability. And so we have a pilot that's ongoing now at Joint Base San Antonio that's been ongoing now for about a year plus. And it's a partnership with the Air Force and the Army and DISA. And through that partnership, we're able to, one, up until today, increased the bandwidth from 600 megabytes now to 10 megabytes there at Joint Base San Antonio. We're able to stand up 2 joint regional security stacks. And we're at the stage now where we have taken down the security boundaries, both on the Air Force side and the Army side, all but one. And so we're going through the final testing. So about March, April of next year, we should be able to release that boundary and truly have a joint network with the Air Force as a seed corn, if you will, moving towards the joint information environment. That's a big game changer. Again, passing both Air Force and Army data over the same network. And we're starting there at Joint Base San Antonio. So as you look at that third line of effort, that is going to be enduring. We have prioritized the locations, and I have that status on the next chart, but we've placed 2 joint regional stacks there in Southwest Asia, 2 in Europe, 11 in CONUS, and the remaining 9, I believe, that is in the Pacific. And so again, great opportunities to move forward. The fourth area is delivering IT services to the edge. As you look at how we do business now, each services has their own individual data center. The Department of Defense, or DISA, has the data center. There's a mandate that came down through presidential channels to, again, close all service data centers and move that requirement to the DISA core data centers. So with this line of effort, the Army, again, is out front. We've done the assessment of identifying all of the data centers, and to date, we have closed about 55% of those data centers. Part of that effort is also looking at applications and moving applications to the cloud. And so we're looking at, again, doing a rationalization study with one of our largest data centers, which is there at Redstone, Alabama, where we're looking at that data center that has over 11,000 applications. We're doing an assessment of which applications we're going to kill, which applications that are going to migrate to the cloud, and which applications are going to stay there locally. Again, moving that data off the installation, off of your instrument, into a cloud technology. And then when you talk about services again, we've worked with NSA on looking at opportunities on cloud management. Right now, DISA will be the lead element, if you will, to manage our government cloud. NSA has recently approved Level 4 and Level 5 security to allow the government to extend the DODIN network, both NIPR and SIPR, into a commercial cloud capability. And so we have a pilot ongoing now with IBM and Amazon to test the capabilities of doing that extension. And so again, like the pilot that was ongoing there at Joint Base San Antonio of combining the network, we're now looking at services, again, which apps we're going to move to the government cloud, and then which apps that we really want to move to the commercial side. So it's a good opportunity, again, as we move forward in cloud technology. As you look at the last line of effort there, which is strengthening network operations, that gets into improving and simplifying network ops by converging it to a single IT service management. You know, I talked about standing up a new joint regional security stack. Well, that's good. When I say joint, that's going to include all of the services and the Department of Defense. So imagine the command and control of that joint network. And so again, looking at the last line of ops is working with our teammates being all of the elements that are part of DoD, all of the services, DISA, and our DoD CIO, to work through the roles and responsibility and then include or bring in the capability of a joint management system to provide clear visibility of a joint and global network. So as you look at all 5 of those lines of effort, I see that as enduring. What I see after we move those apps to the cloud is that a next major goal of the Army will then to move the Army to voice over IP. And so again, looking at cloud technology, moving the apps, expanding the bandwidth, the next major phase we'll do is look at unified capabilities, which is moving everything over to the voice over IP. That's video, chat, looking at sharing of files and things of that nature. And so I reflect back to when I was a second lieutenant, my first assignment there at Camp Casey, Korea, where I had the opportunity to field the first SB 3614. And I used to share that with the audience everywhere I go, and they said, well, what is that? That was the first automated switchboard. And I say to folks that, you know, when you look back when I was a second lieutenant and where I am today, cloud technology, voice over IP, you know, having iPhones, iPads as the instrument of choice, we've come a long way. Not just the Army, but the Department of Defense. So if you go to the next chart, it's not just a PowerPoint slide. And I won't go through this in depth, but I talked about the Joint Regional Security Stack, which is the left column. I talked a little bit about improving the capacity, and I talked little, but need to, talking about on each installation where we're replacing the switches, upgrading all the switches on post-Campson Station. This is a status chart, if you will. It really highlights what we're doing in CONUS, what we're doing in Europe, and what we're doing in Southwest Asia. We took our time there at Joint Base San Antonio, one, to capture all of the lessons learned between the Army, Navy, and DISA to get it right. We also incorporate the soldier workforce to help us do all of the installs. And so as you look at the chart, it's hard to see in the black, but what's highlighted in blue is what's been completed at those installations. What's highlighted in green are on the verge of being completed. So again, when you talk about the momentum of expanding the capacity, moving the apps, and then looking at, again, moving towards the cloud, I think we're off on a good glide path. Next slide. As I look at moving forward in calendar year or FY year, fiscal year 15, this is the laundry list of items that are in my rucksack, our rucksack in the CIO G-6 as we move forward. I talked a lot about many of these. When you talked about data center consolidation, unified capabilities, the Redstone pilot, the commercial government pilot, also looking at bringing in a joint management system, extending services, migrating services to the cloud. The other key things that we are focused on is how do we move both the the tactical network and the institutional network closer together. So we're looking at that in 15 on looking at the capabilities that will be available in 16 and 17 on the installation, and how can we leverage the tactical network and bring those two closer together. We're also looking at the expeditionary comms capability required for Future Force 2025 and beyond. and looking at the early entry requirement, the en-route requirement, looking at the tactical command post requirement, and then the installation requirement to have that both the installation as a docking station from the installation to the point of need in any austere environment. So we're looking at that as well. And then the last piece is we're looking again at the home station mission command capabilities at each post-captain station. How do we standardize that? How do we, again, enhance the training capabilities there at each post-captain station? So as you look at that, that's a very good, aggressive list of requirements and opportunities that we're looking at as we move forward in 15. Next slide. And this is my last slide. And really, as I go around, and we typically get accused in my business to only talk about signal speak, bits and bytes, and so we put together a slide that we are communicating of what are we benefiting from as we do this investing in the capacity, in the security, in the converging the network, into looking at what are we doing about the services. And as you look at this chart, it really is a warfighter flavor chart where when you talk about what are we delivering on this effort, on the Joint Regional Security Stack, we're enabling a single joint security network. Under capacity, we're increasing network speed and performance. On the installation modernization effort, we're extending modernization to the desktop. That one network is a plug-and-play architecture. And then the enterprise services to the edge is we're standardizing the voice, video, and chat capabilities across the Army. So as we look at moving forward, we see that as enabling success today and tomorrow, and then building a joint defendable network that provides seamless command and control at the point of need. So I'm going to stop there and then open it up.